Good evening. I am Tony Dattino. I am the founder of the USA Memory Championship and actively involved at the present moment with the virtual USA Memory Championship that we are doing for the first time. Obviously, we're all adapting and making changes as our current environment continues to worry us a bit, and it keeps us a little bit apprehensive of COVID and how do we stay safe and what do we do. And so we're moving along. We're making progress. We have more people signing up to be part of the event on November the 14th. Each day we're getting some amazing interest, different avenues of people we've never touched before. So maybe the secret sauce was that, you know, if you do a virtual event, people don't have to worry about traveling and the expense of getting on planes and traveling to sites and locations. And we might finally have found a way of expanding this across the United States in a way that works for at least a number of people that want to at least have some fun and give this a go and see where they stand. So we've really putting a lot of time and a lot of effort into, and I want this to be a fun event. So one of my goals, I don't want the intensity of this to be so crazy that, you know, people are so stressed over it, because one of the things we learn about brain health and cognitive fitness is what? We don't want to stress and prolong that stress. Now, some levels of stress are okay, but the stress that we put on ourselves when we're doing some weightlifting stresses our muscles. We know that in order to build stronger muscles in our bodies and flexibility, we need to stress our muscles every other day, not day after day. Mentally, what we don't want to do is stress our brains to the point where we're pushing cortisol through our bodies on a constant basis, because what we know is an excess of cortisol creates poison, a toxin that now goes from building strength within our bodies to weakening them down and serving like a poison. So we've got to balance all this. Our bodies are very interesting and complex. Our brains are the driver of those things. And what I keep reading about, and it's over and over again, is the importance of things we can do to minimize the impact to our brain health. And so here we go, several articles talking about, and I'm going to just pick this one out a little bit right now. This comes out of one of my favorites, on the leading edge in terms of keeping us up to date, Massachusetts General Mind, Mood, and Memory. So we're looking at the November, so I've already gotten the November issue on it, and wouldn't you know, what are they talking about in the November issue? You know, what are some of the risk factors that may delay or prevent? I like the word prevent in there. I could even handle delay right now, but what are some of the factors that can delay dementia or an impact to your brain health? And they broke it down nicely to what are the risk factors here, and then they got a couple over here. What are some of, so listen to this, the three new factors, three new ones. So they're working at this, constantly updating things. So what do you think some of the new ones are? And they've been in the news back and forth, but now they're publicizing. When you get publicized in something like this, and it gets picked up on something like, let me just make sure I get what this one is. This is, I think, my Mount China. Yeah, this is the Mount Sinai report, and it gets picked up. What can you do with social interactions? Well, let's go through the new ones. So what do you think that the new ones are? Anybody want to take a stab at the new ones? Exposure to air pollution. Now, why would air pollution have anything to do with your memory and cognitive fitness? How many times have we talked about our brain consumes the oxygen we're breathing in, and that oxygen, along with the foods that we eat and the things that we think about, generate the chemistry of synapses. The firing of the chemistry coming together, creating electricity that sends the synapse from a axon to a dendritic spine. And now you're breathing in pollutions And where are those pollutions going into your body? What about these firemen that are dealing with these horrendous fires in California for so long? What do you think that's the air that they're breathing in? The people that live in those communities, what do they tell people that have asthma or chronic respiratory ailments? Stay out, stay in the house, try to avoid it. And yet I talk with people in California who say this has been so bad, there are times they can't avoid it. And they wind up with masks on and oxygen and things of that sort. Because now, that's the respiratory, that's the breathing part. But now what does the breathing have to do with our brain cells? And this is one of the things with COVID that I keep thinking about. As I keep learning more about COVID, right, and it impacts our respiratory, nobody's come up to the fact yet of what it's going to do and how it's impacting our thinking and our brain, our memories. And yet what we know is the oxygen that we breathe in has an impact to the air and levels, the quality of oxygen that goes into our brain cells that impact our thinking. As well as we've been talking about through my life with Tony, nutritional issues. So the first new factor that they've come up with here that they're discussing is exposure to air pollution. And I keep hearing on different science reports or things that I'm reading about how wonderful it is that we've locked down travel so much and we're not polluting the skies, and birds and animals and wildlife are coming out and being seen in places that we haven't seen them again in years and years. And the pollution in the sky is much less because we're not constantly polluting. And that's the whole battle going on over the environment. And do we think of the environment and what we're breathing in and its impact that it has on our mental capacities? Let's go to the second one, that head injury. So those of us that have had head injuries and possibly concussions at any point during our life, they have left some damage. I think about boxers. I mean, I'm thinking, well, why would a boxer want to get punched in the head so many times and have his brain wobbling back and forth in the fluid that we have in their heads? Football players, we keep talking about concussion protocols that we see. So any type of a head injury, banging your head against something, sending your brain banging against the skull of your head. And so what can we do with head injuries, and how do we avoid them where it's possible and they're not something we expect? Falling down and banging our heads against a sidewalk or a stairwell or any place, against a wall. Walking in, God, I remember walking with them, looking this way and bang, walking right into a pole. My head, my neck, my shoulders for a week. Now what can you do about that? Well, what we keep finding, and now we add to it, is the lack thereof of social interaction and being isolated and lonely during a time when that seems to be the easiest thing we can do is just withdraw. And the hardest thing we got to do is pull ourselves out of it, because we know that that's not good for our brain health. So there are things that we can do. We've been talking about those. So our sleep habits, our eating habits, our exercise routines, our mental challenges that we're going through. But I want to finish this for tonight, and tomorrow I'll pick up the things we should be doing as opposed to the risks of the things that are causing damage. Third one that they're talking about new, this one's been a roller coaster. This has been an up and down one. And the third thing that they're reporting here in Massachusetts newsletter is excessive alcohol consumption. Excessive alcohol consumption. And boy, there is no question that what the science has revealed over and over again is alcohol, contrary to what we think, well, drinking wine, and again, it's wine, beer, whiskey, rye, different types of alcohols can have a very toxic effect on our brain. And can we limit the amount of alcohol we take in? And we have to know that just by having a drink or two, if we get ourselves to the point where we get a little bit lightheaded. Now, I'm a little bit on the nerdy side. I've never been drunk a day of my life. I've always had an intuition that when I got to the point where I've had 1 or 2 glasses of wine or beer and I start to feel a little bit lightheaded or dizzy, I stop. I've never found the joy in looking at people who I see got intoxicated. And boy, am I glad, because when I talk about this and see the new exposures and risk factors are excessive alcohol consumption, I've been very fortunate never to have been hooked, only because I've listened. If there's one guidance I got from Tony Buzan, it was always listen to your own brain and see what it's telling you. And my brain always said to me, when I started to feel that lightheadedness from a beer or wine, or starting to get to that border, I started to realize by the time I started to get into the third one of wine, beer, or whatever, it was dizzy. It was starting to get a little bit lightheaded, and I'd get a little bit giddy. People thought I was more funny, but I wasn't trying to be a comedian. I was trying to extend my life expectancy. I'm one of those folks that want to stick around to at least 100, because I want to see what they keep finding, what they keep learning. We're on a new wave of learning, and I feel like a pioneer. I've always loved going to history museums and seeing stagecoaches and seeing what our early settlers did and the hardships they had to face and how they got through those. And so I'm one of those pioneer people. And so I'm constantly reading, constantly studying, and constantly taking in new information and wanting to share it with people, because I want to see loads of people, millions of people understand there are so many things that we can do to improve our own mental health and our own cognitive fitness, that we don't have to be destined to have dementia or Alzheimer's, whether it's even hereditary or not. So that's my broadcast for this evening. Tomorrow I'm going to pick up on this social interaction piece. I've been talking about it so much, but I really wanted to get back into this article tonight on here's the risk factors. And I've read it now in 3 of my different science mags, so that seems to be the hottest thing that's coming out right now, so I thought I'd pick that up and cover it tonight. So this is my Wednesday. Do I lose days in the week quickly with my Live with Tony's? Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock. If all goes well, you'll see me back on Thursday, somewhere in the 3 o'clock time period. I'm finding my afternoons have a little bit more inflexibility than I would like, but I'll be back on tomorrow and doing my Thursday Live with Tony. So hopefully everybody's gotten something from tonight's broadcast that can make a difference in your life. And that's what these things are, broadcast Live with Tony on Facebook, are all about.